Hi.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Miha's got a really crazy travel schedule, and he made some time and figured this out for us because this partnership's become pretty important to us.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. So it's my first year here. I love Seattle, and it's been a great experience for me. It's a new world that's opening up in the whole performance space. So yeah, it's been great to be here.
So people are probably interested a little bit in sort of how we came together and why we came together to work on solving a problem for the industry. And we talked about this a little bit backstage, that there is this chasm between brand marketing and performance marketing. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit about how you guys come to the table to solve some of the problems in the brand side and how you think about that relating to performance.
Sure. Yeah, so first of all, that was really Peter's vision and idea, so I can't take much credit for that.
Wow.
So we started talking about the creative in a perspective of the performance world about almost 2 years ago, right? And tried to figure out, does it make sense to connect, integrate, and like usually in the tech space, you want to do stuff that actually you can right away use and find clients that have benefit from, right? So fast forward, this year we actually were lucky enough to work with a very large mutual client, and that came back to the table. So what we've done is we've integrated the platforms together in a really good, seamless way, and it connects the actionable part, so the serving and creative delivery, with the analytics, and it really gives the marketers the ability to now control the creative. From beginning they can action. It's super easy on our platform to really produce and run all sorts of formats and ad products across the largest media reach that you can possibly think, and then having that actionability linked directly into attribution also changed the game for us entirely. So we are super excited, and we're starting to see phenomenal results with the clients that we work. So.
Yeah, so for a little bit of context, from the tune side of this equation, we have quite a few customers that got big budgets. They're really trying to grow and scale these campaigns. They're trying to do it a lot across a lot of platforms, and they've got a lot of creative that they need to manage. So there's an enormous amount of video and interstitial and all kinds of creative that needs to be formatted, that also might need to be dynamic based on location or other options. And how in the world are they going to manage this mountain of creative and then at the same time measure the efficacy of all of that creative? So that's why we really got interested in Celtra, because they have just taken a deep dive right into the middle of that problem. How do we actually scale and manage creative? So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the pain points that you really solve. Sure. When it comes to a marketer having to deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, again, first of all, you have two big levers. One is the media, the other one is the creative, right? And so creative lever is quite complex. So we say it's like the most human factor in advertising, and it's really the core, the essence. The only reason you buy media is to actually get your message across, and that message is now becoming more and more complex, right? So on one hand, you have rapidly evolving media. And every single day there are just like new ways consumers engage with media, and so advertising, digital advertising from a creative standpoint has been so behind, right? So we were just kind of like pushing this static images and assets into all sorts of environments, and then optimizing that stuff. And so you can optimize this to that, but if the experience sucks and if the message is not relevant, and if the message doesn't fit into that environment, you're just simply not gonna get the potential, or the brand's not gonna really get the full potential that they could. So for us, we've been trying to solve this problem for a long time on the brand side, right? And so it's we spend really time understanding how different ad products function, how users engage. We measure creative like into a great depth, right? So you mentioned video. On the video side, I mean, there are like 50 plus descriptors for us, you know, so we can understand, you know, what's the pace in that video, are people in it, like how the brand was revealed, like all sorts of stuff, you know, and so we call this the creative graph. So we are, you know, collecting all this data and trying to really understand what works. Then, you know, making this actionable, right? So you can, you know, with the push of a button, you know, pretty much, you know, change things. You can, you know, create groups. You can start A/B testing, do things like that. So it just really opens up completely new possibilities, you know, for marketers. So we believe this is still early on. You know, still when we look at the market, so the vast majority is really not pulling on the creative lever. You know, some are, and those are getting great results. But it's something that's really just, you know, coming about.
Let's talk about the integration itself. So basically what happens is when you generate a creative in Celtra, tune measurement URLs are automatically appended to that creative, and it includes the parameters that you might need to be able to show the specifics about the creative that's been chosen to be served in this particular scenario. And it really is, you don't have to go log into Tune to do it. You just generate the creative and serve it from Celtra, and it's already packed in.
Exactly.
So what that does is just simplify the experience of managing all of this in one place. I know that many of you have built your own spreadsheets of measurement URLs and ways of appending parameters that you know, maybe aren't scalable at this level.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that we're pushing through this so that we can start to focus again on creative, because isn't that really the messaging that matters? Isn't that the thing that we need to connect to consumers?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, it's one of the two big levers, and I think when you can really action, you know, when you can have the control, and when you have the ability to measure, you know, how this message resonates, and then, you know, start optimizing that on the fly, when all this becomes scalable and really economical from a cost perspective, and then it really links to the return on the ad spend. It's just, you know, a different level of sophistication that you can, you know, achieve, and with that, you know, hopefully much better results. And that's our goal, and, you know, working together on this, again, for us, it's a new world, you know, getting into the whole performance. But what I believe is that, you know, these two things, like the brand side, the performance side, you know, this is really an old paradigm. I think it's all coming together. We're seeing the world we've been used to really, you know, starting to kind of like walk your way, right? So, and really coming together. So, yeah, so I'm totally convinced this is the future, and really super excited to be working with you guys.
I've got one potentially controversial topic to discuss as it relates to this integration, and it's who owns the management of that creative, and certainly with your platform, it makes it easier for the marketer or the demand side to be managing that creative, and then while it's out there in the wild making changes or doing testing, or maybe there's an emergency and you got to go a new direction with creative or whatever that might be. And there's a lot of folks in the industry that would really push us and urge us toward that. And then there's this other kind of part of the industry where marketers don't have the people on staff or the time or the wherewithal to be able to manage a lot of that stuff, and they're just sort of putting it on the publisher to kind of figure out, okay, whatever creative is going to be best for the format that you might be publishing to. So yeah, how do you think about the future of that, and like where creative gets owned and how it is operated?
I mean, look, naturally, you know, I believe the creative needs to be really controlled and operated on the advertiser side. This is the only kind of, I think, rational, you know, thing. So, you know, the publishers,
what's the biggest reason for that? Why do you?
You know, because that's your message. It's kind of like, you know, when I think, you know, advertising, marketing, same way you want to operate the owned and operated properties, you know, websites, app, and so on. You know, advertising is just a piece of that experience, right? So these days, all brands are competing in the kind of like customer experience, you know, field, if you want, right? And so advertising or marketing is just, you know, one you know, very important piece of that, right? So every single time you touch your consumer, doesn't matter how, you want to make sure that you have a full control over that experience. So on the publisher side, they play an important role. So obviously, like everyone is trying to really make the experience on the publisher side better. There's been an explosion of native, unique products that they're building, and I think there's a good logic behind. And so we help on the publisher side. We give them the tools so they can develop their own products. But at the same time, for us, when we support those products, we also help connect advertisers with publishers, right? Because this fragmentation of formats and it's just becoming overwhelming for advertisers. So by bringing it all on one platform, and advertisers being able to very easily build anything from Snapchat to Apple News to Google AMP ads to all sorts of formats and products very easily, that is something that we strongly believe in. But again, the message and the creative, I believe, needs to be controlled by the advertisers, and that's going to probably be kind of like the end. Solution.
You're kind of singing our song there, and I think this is one of the reasons why Tune is related so well to Celtra, is that you do build technologies both for the advertising and marketing side as well as for the publisher side. At the same time, we have to figure out how to give marketers the control that they need to feel safe, to feel like that they're getting what they're paying for, that all of these things are happening, while still like keeping that open and clear communication that happens across both sides. I want to switch gears just real quickly, and you touched on it a minute ago, but I want to talk about video. Mm-hmm. And the thing that excites me about video is I see it as a thing that bridges the gap between brand and performance. And it's just a unit, right, is all it is. But the cool thing is that, especially in mobile, you have a video that has some kind of impression on the consumer, that maybe it goes 5-10 seconds in, or maybe they watch the whole thing, but we've had an impression, we've had a brand experience, and that's something we want to measure just from a perspective of influence, right? Whether that's driving awareness or preference. Now, on the other side, with video though, we've seen that we can drive performance. We've seen we can drive even app downloads from video. So how is it that we can just drive this measurement from end to end and top to bottom and make sure that it's connected and it's one story? So we're not just telling one story to the brand side and a totally different story to performance, but let's see those things start to overlap and intertwine. So it gets me really excited. It's kind of like the tie that might bring us all onto the same page. So Miha, if you can just talk a little bit about sort of the innovations and advancements that Celtra has had in video, and how you guys have thought about that as a fundamental, a method of scale.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I mean, video is incredibly powerful, format, and probably the most impactful form of content in advertising. Doesn't matter if it's performance or brand. Now on the video side, the challenge is that video on mobile is very different than just taking a TV into mobile environment, right? When you think about how we're consuming video today on mobile, there are also many different forms. You have like the outstream that's really taking off and is becoming very, very large. Then it's the vertical video and so on. So for us, challenge number one was really to make super easy again to just like edit, to take raw video asset and adapt it for all these channels, to cut it from a 30 seconds into a 6, 7, 8 seconds, and then to really achieve this best user experience across all these different ad products. So that's one. So secondly, measurement's huge. Obviously, like there are other things that you can measure in video that you can measure on display. And for us, this is where we are starting to really get into understanding the content and trying to based on that optimize and predict. Now the third thing that's probably the most interesting here is same as I was talking about convergence of brand and performance, also when you think from a content perspective, there's a convergence going on too. So that you don't have anymore like, okay, this is clear video and this is a clear display. When you look at the most modern, ad products, you'll see that, they're basically a blend of both, right? So video is becoming interactive, so you have like all the things from, 360 to, to shoppable videos and things like that. Also, there are many video ad products now that also include elements of display, and so I believe those things will come together. We won't talk about video and display anymore. I think these categories will completely kind of like fade away.
Yes, please.
And consumers will just want, again, better, more immersive experiences, but they don't want to compromise on the native feel. And so what we have to deal as kind of technology players is to not only enable but also understand how to measure and optimize. And this is kind of like the challenge that we're facing here. So these all old metrics no longer maybe the best metrics for today. And so this is kind of what we are trying to understand and evolve and develop. So.
Miha, thank you very much. We, like anything, it's going to take a village if an integration like this is really going to take off, right? So if the things we've been talking about are resonating with you and these are things you want to try out, you need to reach out to our teams. You can actually use the integration in Celtra now. So they have a page where you just enable tune measurement and it just works at the push of a button, which is pretty cool. But it's going to take still some coordination and some work in terms of helping more publishers and more supply partners work with Celtra so that this creative can be served into more and more channels. And then, of course, on the tune side, making sure that marketers have this enabled and are able to, explore, into creative like this. So please, let us know your feedback. We're only doing this because we think it's really valuable. And if it's not, we'll go in a different direction. But we really believe that it is. It's something we've been looking for several years to bring together this chasm of brand and performance. And I'm really excited to be doing it with Celtra. They're a great company, and I've really enjoyed just developing a friendship and relationship with you, Miha, and look forward to many things to come.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, just reach out. So we look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.